Hello and welcome everyone to our Meet Our Community Partner conversation between Judge Peter Bariso and Dr. Esther Nir. Judge Bariso and Dr. Nir work together on a community engaged learning course called Trial Advocacy and the American Legal System, offered through the Honors Program at NJCU. Before I introduce our speakers, let me tell you a little bit about community engaged learning, or what we call CEL. CEL connects students to the broader community by integrating them into project-based learning outside the classroom. Students work on a social problem or issue at a community site guided by a community partner. Essentially, students get to apply what they are learning in the classroom to sites outside of the classroom. We know through decades of research into the effects of CEL that CEL enriches the teaching and learning experiences. Today, we're speaking with Judge Peter Bariso, who recently retired in April 2021 from his role as the Hudson County Assignment Judge, a position he held since 2012. Judge Bariso has been a longtime friend and mentor to NJCU students. We are thankful that you took the time to talk to us today, Judge Bariso.
I'm honored, thank you.
Judge Bariso is in conversation with Dr. Esther Nir, Associate Professor in the Department of Criminal Justice here at NJCU. In addition to teaching in criminal justice in the Criminal Justice Department and the Honors Program, Dr. Nir is a faculty mentor and creator of the mock trial team here at NJCU. Judge Bariso and Dr. Nir work together on a CEL course called Trial Advocacy and the American Legal System, which is what we'll hear about today. Welcome to you both, and I turn things over to Dr. Nir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musial. It's an honor to be here with you, Judge Bariso. It's been a wonderful journey working with you over the past few years since I've been at NJCU. I'm sad to see you go, but I'm excited for you for the next phase in this career, and we're so grateful for all that you've done.
Thank you. Thanks.
So to start this conversation off, let's start before we even get to NJCU. Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey to becoming a judge?
Sure. Originally, believe it or not, I was a pre-med major, but came across a very good professor at Rutgers by the name of Dr. Jonathan Laurie. Took an American legal history class, and he was such a great mentor. He had a fellowship at Harvard Law School. I went up to spend time with him and sat in on a law class at Harvard, and convinced me that I should go to law school. Was successful in obtaining a clerkship with a judge and began doing trial work in 1980. And after 25 years of trying cases and appearing in front of judges all over the state, both in state and federal court, I felt that, I always viewed a judgeship as the pinnacle of one's legal career. And when I had the opportunity to take the bench, I didn't want to pass it up, because I thought that it was important to have skilled attorneys become judges. That's really the career path that I took. And 16 years on the bench, it's been 16 great years, and I really enjoyed it.
And you could tell by watching you on the bench how much you enjoyed it. Now, being a judge isn't only a job description, but it's also a position of civil service. Why is participating in public life important to you?
Well, Esther, I had some really good mentors, as I said, through college, law school, and in the practice. And I was just very successful. And I thought, for all of us who have had a measure of success or have had good mentors, almost like to pay it forward, give back a little bit. And that's what I tried to do, and hope I accomplished some of it, to be able to give back to the public as a sitting judge, as an assignment judge, give back to the legal community, and also be a mentor to do what many people did for me to help my career.
Now, apart from all that you do as a judge, do you participate in civic engagement outside of your job as well?
Not as a member of a particular organization, but I'm active in what they call the Bar Foundation, the New Jersey State Bar Association and Foundation, as well as the Hudson County Bar Foundation. I constantly get involved in what's called, continuing legal education, giving programs. I've always worked on for many years the high school mock trial competition, assisting the state bar with that. I do work through my church on certain volunteers, not in a particular organization, but to help out at food banks and things of that nature. Uh, so yes, I do. I think it's important. Like I said, I just believe we all should give back a little bit if we can, and I would like to give people the success, or at least give them the opportunities that I had.
That's wonderful. Now, Judge Bariso, I remember when I first came to your chambers with Jody Bailey, and we pitched to you the idea of having 40, 50 undergraduate sophomores running around the courthouse observing different court proceedings. And I remember you sitting there with us and not hesitating for a second, and immediately, opening up the possibilities of saying yes and thinking of different ideas to make it an incredible program. Why did you say yes to the CEL partnership?
Well, it really started before, I believe, Professor Louise Stanton had reached out to me, and I was, I guess, for want of a better term, a guest lecturer each semester. And I was so impressed with the questions I was asked and the students that, when the opportunity came up now to be more specific in terms of your mock trial or trial advocacy course, I was really looking forward to that, because I was so impressed with the questions I received when I was just a lecturer. I thought, boy, we could really expand this and give the students an opportunity to, as you call it, real life training.
Now, at this point in time, you've had, several years of this real life training of having NJCU students come to your courtrooms, for you to come to our classrooms, for you to judge mock trial competitions. We had some of our students actually deliberate as jurors in your jury room and then come back and render a verdict and explain their verdict to you. Can you tell us about your experiences working with NJCU students?
Yes, as I said, what I enjoy working with the students, for me anyway, is to obtain the perceptions or observations from a very diverse community of students. Your student body is very similar to the county. I've always told people that I think Hudson County is probably, if not the most diverse, one of the most diverse counties in the country. And as a legal system and as a judge, you always want to try to learn different things. And one of the things we strive for is to obtain not only the next generation's views of what we're doing, but a diverse community. The students are all, what a diverse background of students you have. So, I really did it for two reasons. One, selfish. I wanted to get their perceptions and observations to help me be a better judge and a better person. And also to see if I can influence them and mentor them in any way to seek some type of career in the judiciary, because there's so many career options. And the passion of some of your students, it was a little bit of a surprise. I expected that, some passion, but some of your students in particular, when we did the mock trials, their passion was incredible. And it also confirmed my belief that, future generations want to be more involved. And I think your students want to make a difference.
Absolutely. And, what was so impressive to me was, as their professor, telling them, the expectation is that you're going to go out into the community, you're going to be traveling to the courthouse and spending 12 hours during the course of the semester in the courthouse. A lot of them had trepidation. There was a lot of hesitancy. There was a lot of concern about balancing work and school. Some of them had fear of being in the courtroom because of their own backgrounds, and they came from, they had life experiences that made them fearful of being in the courthouse. But so much of that was completely dispelled when they entered your courthouse. I could tell you from my experience, they found the judges, the attorneys, the court officers, and the staff so engaging and so comforting to them. And that was an incredible experience.
Yeah, you know, it goes back to, you know, what we talk about. I like to talk about preparation and communication. You and I prepared, you know, we tried to find the right cases to observe based on their interests. I communicated with certain judges to make sure everyone was aware, you know, who was coming to, you know, so they didn't feel intimidated. They would come to my chambers first, so that they were able to meet someone in a more relaxed setting at first. No robe, just come into my chambers, see what it's like. We're regular people. And then, you know, being able to direct them if they wanted to see criminal, if they wanted to see civil. And it's true. You are right. Some of them were apprehensive. A lot of them, which is always true, even when I was a guest lecturer, everybody's much more interested in the criminal cases. But I tried to tell them, and a couple of them did listen, and they were able to observe some of the civil, you know, some of the civil matters as well. And I just think, you know, we set it up, we scheduled things far in advance. You and I gave me an opportunity to check the court's calendar, gave us an opportunity to handpick judges and cases. And I think it really worked out well, as you said, based on the students' experience.
Now, Judge Bariso, as you know, the students journaled their experience and they took down notes, and they not only about what they were seeing, but their perceptions, opinions, how it made them feel. It wasn't just what was before them, it's also what was around them. They sat among defendants' families, victims' families. You know, they sat in the audience and they were able to feel the courtroom, not just observe what was going on. Did they provide, the NJCU students provide any new insights to you?
You know, they did, Esther, and I'm trying to think. There was one in specific that I know you and I discussed that I brought to the judge's attention. And now I'm trying to think. It was in that they were watching that ineffective assistance of counsel motion. And I believe it was, some of them made an astute observation about the prosecutor's approach, and they questioned the prosecutor's behavior and was wondering why the judge didn't either reprimand or try to bring it back under control. Because I think, if I recall correctly, they perceived that, and also perceived and heard some mumblings from, as you said, family members that might have been there for that motion, because it was a pretty significant motion. And, you know, and I brought that to the judge's attention. And, you know, the judge didn't feel the same way that the students did, but understood, you know, maybe we also have to be mindful of the, you know, participants and the galley, as we call it, the gallery's perceptions.
Oh, absolutely. And what I noticed also by looking at their journals and the conversation and the debriefing sessions that we had afterwards is they were very critical. They had a critical eye to what they were observing.
Absolutely.
Not only did they observe issues such as defendant rights, constitutional rights, criminal procedure issues, issues regarding race and gender, they also were critical about attorneys' preparations and performances.
Yes.
They analyzed the styles of different judges.
They were very good, and that's why I always talk to them about, when I started with with Louise Stanton, and we continued when I come out to the university, as I said, as a guest lecturer, always talking about how important it is to be prepared and work hard no matter what you do. And you see, because I remember the first time there were a lot of questions about that. The attorneys didn't seem prepared, or boy, it didn't seem like the judge was really aware of the arguments. I mean, for them to perceive that, you know, is I think they listened to some of the things we were telling them in your classroom.
Absolutely. And Judge Bariso, I remember you coming to my classroom in person prior to COVID, and you know, your willingness to come to Zoom sessions and to debrief with them on what they observed. when you heard some of their questions, and they had some challenging questions, they were not afraid to to ask you anything, which was, which is such a testament to how open and generous you are with your comments and your information. Did anything surprise you in those conversations, or what was confirmed for you in those conversations?
I think, as I said, what confirmed, if there was a surprise, as I said, the surprise might have been, not that I didn't expect some passionate questions, but I was a little surprised at how passionate the students were and where they went with their questions, particularly when I may give a difficult question and I may give a certain answer, and some of them pressed. And I would, if you recall, there were a couple of times that I says, all right, look, I'm here, I'm an assignment judge. From the judiciary's perspective, this is the way it works. If you're asking me for a personal opinion, I'll do my best to try and give you a personal opinion, but I cannot take that personal opinion with me on the bench. And they understood that. And that's confirmed to me what I said earlier, confirmed my belief that I really do believe our future generation and the students that we had, the seniors or graduate students, I think that generation, they do want to be more involved and they do want to make a difference. And you could tell that by their questions. They really do have the so-called thirst for knowledge. And I enjoyed that.
Now, Judge, your last year as an assignment judge must have been a little bit challenging, with COVID, and there were a lot of changes and that had to be made, and that even spoke to defendants' rights, when they're appearing on Zoom. Yet, in addition to all of those responsibilities, you continued this community engaged learning program with our students. How did that work out during COVID?
It was a challenge, as we both know, but I think we were able to afford your students, and I believe that it was a graduate class that we were able to make arrangements, because there were certain proceedings, if you recall, especially in the criminal sector, there were certain proceedings that unless the attorneys consented, we had to do it in person. And we had restricted access, but we were able to work out a system where your students would come to chambers first. We would identify a proceeding that was going to be in person. I think we limited it to, because of the courtroom and the distancing, I believe we limited it to 3 or 4. I don't recall the number all at one time for one courtroom, but they would come to my chambers first to let them feel a little less intimidated. And then I would bring them to the courtroom. And as you said, my understanding, just based on their journals and the things they told us, it worked out really well. And they had, I think they did it, I can recall at least 4 or 5 occasions when they came to my chambers. So I don't know, that I specifically recall. They might have come if I was out, but I do remember at least 4 or 5 occasions that we were able to provide personal observations for them. And again, they had some very good comments, because some of them, depending on how long the proceeding was, would come back to my chambers. Because I said, if you have any questions about what you saw, don't hesitate to come back. And a couple of them came back and asked very good questions about what they observed. So I think it was enlightening for both sides.
Absolutely. So Judge Bariso, after this long career in law and on the bench and being a partner to not only NJCU, but high school students, what's next?
Well, what's next is I had a very short-lived retirement. I left the bench. My last work day was March 31. And on April 19th, I went back to work with my old firm 3 days a week. I'm doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Unlike what most people think I want to do, I really don't want to do a lot of mediations and arbitrations. I will help out if I can. But the arrangement I have, and my former partner, Ralph, who we stayed very close, understands that I really want to do more mentoring, working with the attorneys here on their files, also doing some other activities. I would help out with a mediation if I can, or arbitrations, if you will, for attorneys that I know, and still, as we talked earlier, about giving back a little bit. But my main goal is to mentor and work with the younger attorneys. And I'm always available to come back and talk to your class at any time.
That's wonderful, and there are some very lucky younger attorneys in your law firm.
Thank you.
So before you retired, and we were all so thankful for this. You made it a point to kind of pass the torch on, and find a successor to help keep NJCU involved in these valuable community engaged learning experiences. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I know when I first told you I was leaving, I remember you really were like, oh no, what's going to happen? And I said, no, I think my successor has the same view toward working with your program. I know he's never worked with your school directly, but I knew he had done some mentoring, if you will, and some guest lecturing at St. Peter's, because one of our judges who retired, Kevin Callahan, is affiliated with St. Peter's. And I knew he had done some of that. And he also does a lot of the seminars for judges. And I was hopeful and optimistic that he would continue. And I saw from the very first email we sent each other when I made the introduction that it looks like, and I think you'll be on solid ground to continue your program.
Absolutely.
And as I said, I'm always available to assist you at any time.
Absolutely. And you left us in good hands, and it was wonderful working with you all these years. And we hope to, to continue the relationship in some form. And we wish you all the best. And thank you so much for all that you've done for us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I think I had just as much enjoyment, if not more, than your students did. So thank you very much. And please stay safe.
You too, Judge Bariso. Thank you.